Car payments are getting closer to the $1,000 mark, averaging $734 for new cars and $525 for used cars. Meanwhile, interest rates have doubled since 2022, touching almost 8%. Unsurprisingly, auto loan delinquency has increased in recent years in response to this new auto loan reality. In this uncertain economic environment, a lot of us are facing a difficult decision when it comes to cars. To buy, to get a loan, or even lease. How much car can I actually afford? Let's break it down together. First things first, it's crucial to understand what's optimal for you. I resonate with this point that Dave Ramsey makes, that the value of all of your vehicles should be no more than half of your total household income. So if you're making $100,000 as a household, the total value of all of your vehicles should be no more than $50,000. So again, if that's 2 cars that you own, the total value should be no more than $50,000. And this is regardless of if you take out a loan or pay cash. If you're paying cash for a used car, then theoretically you can buy a slightly nicer vehicle than the same brand new car would be, maybe have less features or less exciting, or maybe a smaller compact vehicle for the same price. Now, this approach helps you avoid overspending and keeping your financial priorities straight, building more freedom for yourself and your family instead of just driving the most expensive car that you possibly can. Just like with home buying, lenders will lend you a lot more than maybe you can actually afford. They're not in there living your day-to-day life. They don't know the pressures you face at work. And one of the most, frankly, irresponsible things you can do is just max out what you can possibly buy. That is going to put the pressure on you to show up and perform at work, maybe staying at a job you hate because you're trapped in a car payment that you probably shouldn't have afforded in the first place. So there's also another car buying rule, the 35% rule. So similar to the Dave Ramsey thought, this is really just that you shouldn't spend any more than 35% of your total gross income. So again, if you're making $100,000, no more than $35,000. So if we look at this compared to Dave's example, that'd be more like no more than $70,000 total when you add all that in. So think of those as 2 kind of differing options. You know, obviously Dave's being the more conservative one, could be a healthy way for you to think about that. Although if you want to be a little more frugal, great. Consider that maybe the 20-25% rule for yourself if you'd like. The point is, these are just rules of thumb. Everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different. Like if you're a traveling salesperson and you're on the road all day, you probably want to spend a little more than someone like myself that works from home. Or if you're a, mom shuttling around all kinds of young kids, you maybe buy a slightly nicer vehicle with, more reliability, more safety, etc. Let's talk leasing. Leasing might seem attractive because you can get even more car for your money due to the lower payments associated, but just remember, you're just renting the car. When the lease ends, you own nothing and have to start the game over again. I think leasing is probably the worst possible way to drive a car. Even if you buy a brand new vehicle, which isn't great because of the depreciation, the second you drive it off the lot, it's gonna plummet in value. You can still mitigate this by driving it for 10 or 15 years until the wheels fall off, as they say. So a new car for $30,000, let's say, might depreciate to $20,000 to $24,000 pretty quickly. But if you keep the car for 10 years, the depression is spread out over that 10-year period, making it more economical. Let's compare 2 scenarios, leasing in a loan. Now you can see here on the graph with the lease, you've got a 36-month term. Maybe you paid nothing out of pocket, but your total cost is going to be $14,400. Again, not even factoring interest rates here. Compared to a loan with a 6% interest rate for $400 a month over 36 months, you're going to pay $15,770, but you actually own the car. In the end, owning might cost more up front, but at least it gives you something to show for it at the end. You have an actual asset at the end of that time period. But ideally, buying a car that's a couple of years old is the real sweet spot because the majority of depreciation has already occurred. This concept is really expanded on in the book, The Millionaire Next Door. They talk a lot about this concept and how a lot of wealthy people will oftentimes go this route when purchasing a vehicle. So again, just to expand here, a $30,000 car is going to be worth $20,000 in a couple of years. So you can literally save $10,000 by buying a 3-year-old car. Think of it like a new iPhone. New model comes out, old model drops, could be a brand new phone still. You're still getting something powerful, but you're saving money on the price tag. And when you're thinking about buying versus paying in cash, there is opportunity cost to consider. Really, everything is a trade-off. If you buy the brand new car, you have less money to invest in other things. If you are saving up your cash, sure, that might take some time, but then you don't have a car payment, and you can use that monthly cash flow to invest and do other things to have more freedom across the board. And mathematically speaking, just looking at the numbers, buying a car cash is the cheapest way to go. Managing your cash flow is critical. Again, you want to make sure that you're not using all of your free cash flow for this new car payment. One of the ways to keep this in check is the 20-4-10 rule, which suggests putting 20% down, financing for 4 years, and keeping the payment under 10% of your take-home pay. Again, just another rule of thumb to make sure that you're not overdoing it in the car category. Again, ultimately, minimizing your car payment gives you more freedom and choice in other areas. When you prioritize living below your means, you have that freedom to invest in things like your education, which should be ongoing post-college, in my humble opinion. You can take the risk to switch jobs if you hate it, or simply invest those dollars in the stock market, giving you an 8 to 10% return over long periods of time. And that will make you way more money, way more wealth, make you way richer than continuing to invest in a depreciating asset. Overspending to impress is all too common. Most people are overspending on vehicles, frankly, to try to look cool. It's easy to be lured into this when new cars have such a sexy appeal and the bank will lend you way more money than they probably should. But ask yourself, is it really worth it to risk your financial stability and your peace ultimately to look cool to a stranger at a stoplight? In October 2022, the average new vehicle purchase price was over $48,000, while the average wage in 2022 was $63,795. Something isn't right about that. Every year, auto manufacturers pump out new cars that are incrementally better or cooler, convincing the masses to overspend on a functional item that doesn't really do anything to actually improve your life in the grand scheme of things. It just keeps you locked into the hamster wheel. It's just like a new iPhone, but with cars. It barely changes year to year and probably isn't worth the upgrade. When buying a car, 90% of people neglect this one important thing: maintenance. Let me tell you a story. 10 days before my wife and I got married, both of our cars died on the same day. We had the same tow truck driver. Her engine blew up, my transmission died. True story, we had to take a rental car to our wedding in Jacksonville, Florida. 2 years later, the same thing happened, this time 1 day apart. Both our cars dead. She looked at me and said, "The last time this happened, something really good happened. We got married. Maybe I'm pregnant." And that is when I found out that we were pregnant with my son. This is just my personal example of why having an emergency fund is so important for unexpected things like this. And it seems like so many people deal with automotive headaches that can torpedo your budget for the month or quarter or 6 months even. But the flip side is picking a car that is statistically reliable can save you thousands in the long run. These cars cost less over time, saving you repair headaches and the time spent, sitting in a repair shop for like 3 hours and having to coordinate an Uber or someone dropping you off and picking you up. There's a great tool on Edmunds.com called the True Cost to Own Calculator. We'll link that in the description below for you to check out. It helps you compare the long-term cost of multiple different cars, including maintenance and repairs. As a fan of brands like Toyota, Honda, and Acura, I've found they're not only reliable, but cost less to maintain compared to other more luxury brands. So like a Toyota might cost $500 a year, I'm just making that up, to repair versus a more luxury vehicle like a Mercedes or BMW costing maybe $1,500 or more to repair over the course of a year. Those savings absolutely stack up. Think over a 10-year time period. That's a lot of money. And by the way, feel free to criticize my car choices in the comments below. If you want to rake me over the coals, be my guest. Another tip is insurance. All insurance is not created equal. Sure, there might be statewide mandatory limits and things like that, but there are so many other brokers and places that sell insurance that you could probably save a lot of money. Here's what I do and what I recommend for every single client. You type the name of your city or town into Google. So for me, I would say Charlotte, NC, independent auto insurance. And then a list of vendors will come up and you make a couple calls. And what the magical thing is, instead of it being like you call State Farm can only get you State Farm insurance. These independent brokers can shop around and find you the best rates, the best deals for, again, reputable insurance providers, not like, Ed's Insurance or something like that that's gonna screw you, but reputable providers. And you can oftentimes save hundreds of dollars by just making a few phone calls. Buying a car should be about making a wise decision based on your salary, avoiding leases when possible, and managing your cash flow prudently. Even though there's a lot of factors to consider, making a great decision doesn't have to be that difficult. And the easiest way to stay out of debt and save money for a car sustainably is to automate your finances. If you automate your finances, you don't have to worry about late payments, micromanaging a budget, or finding the right app to track your finances. Watch this video linked up above where I show you how I help all my clients automate their finances. If you find this helpful, like and subscribe if you're still here watching for more savvy financial tips. Peace out, Automation Nation.